again, with looking at this data, you would see that, hey, the two biggest areas are we need to be training faculty on how to communicate high expectations, and we need to be training faculty on racial microaggressions, intrusive practices, and on performance monitoring. Now, obviously these are things that Frank and I, as part of M2C3 and through our work with Cora, obviously these are things that we can provide PD on, but it doesn't have to be done through us. This is just really to give you an idea of this is what really needs to be done. You can bring us in, you can bring somebody else in, but either way, it's something that really needs to be a focus, and you can know that for your full-time and your part-timers. Then the report goes from there to one page for full-time faculty, one page for part-time. So this is all faculty, full-time faculty, and part-time faculty, and then this goes into full-time faculty, broken down by different area. Now you'll see here basic skills. Basic skills is essentially developmental education, but that's what we refer to it as in California. So if you were a college outside of California, we probably refer to it as developmental education or whatever is being used in your respective area. So you'll see it breaks down for area types, so full-time faculty who are in basic skills, full-time faculty who are in general education, full-time faculty who are teaching major required courses primarily, and then those who are teaching multiple areas who can't really discern. And you would see essentially how they're scoring in each of these areas, and then you can use that to tailor targeted professional development for those faculty in these areas. And then the next page focuses on this for part-timers. And I'll say this, both in terms of the national sample and in terms of the colleges that we've done this report for. Now this is fake data. We don't present real data from our partner colleges. One of the patterns that we have seen both across the national data and with the institutions that we partner with is that there's a real concern about the part-time faculty members who are teaching developmental education of basic skills in terms of the type of teaching practices that they're using in comparison to other faculty. And that's been an area that's, it's been a pretty glaring difference in terms of the instructional practices that we know are even more important, particularly in those areas. So I think that we're going to be doing a report sometime in fall that's going to talk about how campuses need to think about and address that. Because I know on many of our campuses, we went to a campus this past year where there was not a single full-time faculty member teaching in basic skills. Not a single full-time faculty member. Now, that's not to say that part-time faculty, we don't have great part-time faculty members, right? But that helps to signal something in terms of what people think about that. And we know that our students are oftentimes concentrated in that. The last area of the report focuses on what faculty members at those institutions recommend. So we do the first part of the report based upon our national benchmarks against high-performing institutions. And the second part is we ask faculty of those institutions, do you need training in these areas, right? And then for those who basically said we definitely need it or we need it, we basically put those in rank order so you can see what that looks like and you can say, hey, our faculty members also said that this was important and that can help make a more justified and well-rounded argument. Okay, just wanted to go through real quickly, and I probably don't have enough time to really do this, but some of the insights that we're seeing both from the CCSM and from the CCIDI. The CCSM being the student survey and the CCIDI being the faculty survey. Across most of the institutions that we partner with, men of color are experiencing extreme stressful life events. We first measured this in our prior data, asking them, we gave them examples of stressful life events such as divorce, eviction, major relationship breakup, incarceration, death of a close family member or friend, examples like that. And then we would ask them to tally up how many of these things have you experienced in the past 2 years, following kind of how the federal government reports it for their ELS survey. One of the things that we realized early on is that there's a high percentage of stressful life events, major stressful life events being experienced by our men of color. Across our samples, we see that on average, Black and Latino males experience 4 to 5 major stressful life events in that time frame. And for our Latino males, about 15% of the population experience 7 or more of those events, which is the highest end of our scale. So we know that we're dealing with and working with students who are experiencing some real challenges. So we have to be attentive to that. We are also seeing that across our samples, when we're looking at our student surveys, that our men of color are not experiencing validation from faculty in particular, but faculty and staff. We'll go to a campus and we'll have scores that are acceptable at the acceptable level for other populations, but then when we get to our men of color, experiencing the campus in the same way, right? And that's important. In fact, typically, it's on most of the campuses that we partner with, and across the national sample that we have, it's been at the highest level, the red level for those areas. We also are starting to see a converging benefit for validation. So, and this was one of the things that was talked about yesterday in the research presentation on black males by the work from Kara Bauer, is that when students are receiving those messages from both faculty and from staff, they have a more intensified benefit on their success. So it speaks to this notion that we can't just have people in silos doing this, but we have to be creating a campus climate and culture. The other thing that we've seen, and this is particularly with our students of Latino descent, is that there's kind of like a sweet spot of validation. So we ask them essentially, do they receive these messages from, and we ask them the total number of people that they're receiving it from, that when they're receiving messages about their ability to succeed, about their belonging in college from at least 4 faculty members, that the success rate jumps up. So if we look at our charts like, okay, let's say that this is success high and this is lower levels of success. We see, okay, what does that success look like for when you receive it from 1 person? It's here. From 2 people, it's here. From 3 people, it's here. From 4 people, and it jumps. And so we know that speaks to something, and we've seen that across both full-time and part-time students. I'm just going to pick out one other thing since we need to move forward. I'll say this one. Faculty members may know name, but typically not students' goals or interests. So one of the things that we measure is essentially relationships that they have. And we've seen that across many of the samples. They might know the student's name, but they don't know anything else about them. That's obviously a concern because we know that relationships are a foundational precondition to effective teaching and learning and support for men of color. Okay, so we're going to transition to the next part, and if you're interested in learning more about some of the patterns that we're seeing, we can feel free to connect with myself, Frank, and Marissa. Raise your hand so they can see that you're here, and we can provide you with some more information on what we're seeing. But in terms of, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question about the CCIDI.
Yes.
Do you do anything around social desirability since it's self-report?
Social desirability for
the faculty?
In terms of what? Can you give me an example?
So if we're asking faculty to self-report the different types of practices they're engaged in,
yeah,
they might be inflating that.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you have some type of control for that, like using a social desirability scale.
So we have a control for that with the student survey, which is how we actually designed the benchmarks assuming that. With the faculty survey, we felt that we would see it as something that would be across the board. So that's why we used the high-performing colleges to try to account for that. So that's how we tried to build it in to take that into account. But it's been a regular part of the conversations we have in terms of the design. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of the webinar series, it's really kind of the bread and butter of what we've been doing with the consortium. As you all know, that once a month we've been providing a webinar that focuses on different topics, and these are topics that have come from you. We started doing initial topics, and then last year at the working group we got feedback from you on what we should be doing, and this year we want to do the same thing. Just to give you an overview of what we've done so far, we've done early alert systems, we talked about microaggressions, we've done students of color and black men, particularly in STEM. We've done a couple of webinars that focus on how do you gain institutional buy-in for supporting men of color. And again, all these are available, the recordings for these on our website and through ACP On Demand. We've done the role of the trustee. Here's some other ones we've done: teaching, learning, counseling, advising, student athletes. So we've been trying to be as responsive as we can to the requests that you have. So this next year, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do our webinars, but we're going to have more information sharing sessions. So what that means is, if you're engaged in some sort of activity or strategy that's having some success, and you'd like to talk about that and let other people hear about what you're doing, but also from a true standpoint of also gaining some feedback, some honest feedback about what people perceive about what's taking place, whether that's good or bad. We want to support that and make that a more critical component of this consortium. So is Sua Jean here? Sua is in the back. He is one of the